Welcome back to the $1 million Tipping Point podcast. Today we have Laura Wright here, and this is going to be a good interview for anyone who's interested in sales and how to sell and get more money through your sales, which we all want, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So today we are brought to you by the Tipping Jar of Wisdom, where as a newsletter subscriber, you get access to exclusive content every Thursday straight to your inbox with actionable tasks from our guests that will help you grow your business. So head over, connect with me on Instagram at virtually Kiri or LinkedIn. I am the only Kiri Mohan, and sign up through my bio. Also, if you're looking to start or grow your business, be sure to sign up for our monthly biz growth workshops, also found in my Instagram bio. So Laura today. Laura supports impact-driven women who are service-based professionals and business owners break through the threshold they keep hitting so that they feel amplified, expansive, and make lots of money doing what sets their soul on fire. Laura is not a life coach. She is a brass tacks business coach. Laura helps brilliant-minded women who have amazing services to give to the world understand how to do it in a way that helps them thrive at their highest potential while making the most amount of money possible. Laura believes when smart and powerful women hold true wealth, that is the way we change the world. So thank you for joining.
I'm so happy to be here. I can't wait for this conversation. I have a sense it's going to be pretty amazing.
We are very aligned in some things. When I do my biz growth workshops, I talk a lot, and it's for women. I talk a lot about how I believe that when women hold more money, they can be more powerful in how they change the world, and I say, it's kind of this fact we live in this capitalist society that's not going to go away anytime soon. So I believe by empowering women, by building businesses and having wealth, they can change the world. So when I read that line earlier, I was like, yes,
We're
love
twins.
that. Yeah. And you know what? When I was reviewing all your website and your information, you keep using the word expansive. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that word and what it means to you and your business.
Okay. So I know in my human design, my makeup, and what I see is I see what already exists and I immediately zoom out to the biggest, most amazing possible thing. So I am always an expander and an amplifier. And I remember, I don't know who said it, but many, many years ago, when you reframe words to access what you really want. So this word expensive shows up for a lot of people. And I remember having this thought of what if it's actually expansive, not expensive? So I think that that's what we're really actually looking to do. We want to expand our business. We want to expand what's happening in our lives. We want to expand our bank account. I think the only thing we don't want to expand is our waistline usually, but I know we might want to expand our health. So I think that's where I get connected to that word.
I like it. I've never seen that, but I've seen the word before, but not throughout all these interviews I've done. Expansive is so interesting. So talk to us a little bit about your business and what you do.
So traditionally, I call myself a sales coach and consultant because I think it's really easy for people to identify and know how to buy. If you are struggling with your sales, come and sit with me and I will support you to figure out how to scale your business and make more money. So that's what I say. But the truth of the matter is, what I really do is help you see possibility, but then become activated to take the action. Because I think a lot of times where people get stuck inside a business is either they don't know what they could possibly go off and do. So they don't have the creative ideas or the experience to have done it, or they are getting caught in that circle, where you have all the ideas, but then you don't take action, and all the ideas, but then you don't take action. And I like to marry the two of having some really smart, simple to follow ideas, and then the activation to actually go take them, which then gives you the results you want.
Do you work with people who are really just starting out, or do your clients have to have some kind of established business first?
Great question. So I would say 99% of the time I work best with people who have already built a business and we're expanding it. There are just a few caveats to the rule. And the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of women do this thing where they have built a business before, something magnificent, and then they go do something different and they throw all their information away, like virtually. They just pretend they don't have it and they think they're starting something brand new, but they're not actually. In fact, I have a client right now who came to me because she's like, I don't know if we can work together because what I'm doing is brand new. I've never done this before. And then 3 minutes in the conversation, I was like, oh, you mean this other business that you grew very successfully, but had to set down for 2 years while you were doing something else? We're going to go pick that up, dust that off, and get it in motion. So long-winded way to say most people I work with have already built something and we're building it bigger, better, more expansive. But a lot of times women especially show up and they discount or don't acknowledge what they've already done before.
Why do you think that is? Because I identify with that and I'm in the process of doing it right now. So I get it. And I'm like, no, I'm ignoring this other business I built successfully because I'm focusing on this. And I'm like hearing you talk, like, uh-oh, this is me.
These are those moments where I'm like, I love you already. Okay. I always like to give reference and source to everyone that I've ever learned from before. So this was first taught to me by somebody else. But historically, the way that women show up in the workplace and how we're taught, if you ask a man and a woman who are working on a project together, how did it go? What did you do? Here's what you will hear from a woman. I didn't really do that much. We did all this together. I kind of maybe sort of helped, and the team came together and the team did everything, and it wasn't mine. If you ask a man historically, if he worked on a team project, oh, I did this, I did all of that, I did this. Now, there's nothing wrong with men, there's nothing wrong with women. It's just how we've been classically trained. And so most people come from either a workforce or an environment of that, and then they go into their business and the same thing happens. The other side of this is what we deal with, the cognitive side of the brain that makes choice on new information. And our survival skills are made that new is scary and we should avoid it. It's that thing, if you've ever heard of the ego mind or the lizard brain, that thing that keeps us surviving. This is why you always have that question, when people are in like bad situations, but they stay there, or not even bad. They're just like, why do people not change? Because change is scary. Even if change sounds, looks, is amazing, the best thing you could ever have, why wouldn't you go for it? It's change, and our survival instincts say stay the same. When you pair those two things together, women eliminate things that they've done and don't claim it as their own. And then when they're going to go do something new, it is scary. Again, that's not a women or a man thing, it's just scary. And so you can't take past access information with you into the future. What I help my clients do is see the connection to what you used to do is just like what you want to do. Here's how it's going to be more fun, more easy, more profitable. And when you do that, it gives you a bridge to cross. Have you ever heard of, like, I use this concept a lot, bridge builders and bridge burners? So there's basically two people in this world, maybe 2,700, but there's two types of people. There are people who need to go from safety of land and slowly build a bridge and go cross it and safely get to the other side. And then there's some people who, I identify this usually, we are bridge burners, where when you literally burn the bridge and there's no way to go back, you run forward and you get where you want to go faster. What I've learned over my experience is it is a much easier way in your nervous system to build a bridge and cross it. But we're taught that you should burn your bridge. Like, think about how many times you've heard there is no plan B, like plan A and that's it. And I subscribe to that usually, but it's a nervous system that makes you go, oh crap, and it can get you out of whack. So what I help people see is that you've already have the bridge here, but you don't have to take 20 years to cross it. We want to just marry and balance the expansion, the speed, the excitement, the something new, along with showing you you've actually already done this before. Because when your body knows you've done it before, you feel safe and you actually take bolder actions, which gets you better results.
And that totally makes sense with doing like this, starting a new business entirely, right? Because if you can marry it to like, no, you've done this before, it's not that scary, then people are going to say, whew, you know what? Okay, I can do this. I've got it. Do you teach anyone in terms of the sales part? Do you go back into the very beginning of cold emails and cold calling, or is it really just when someone reaches out to a business? I have a business, right? I get a form inquiry or a referral or whatever, and then you teach them, okay, here's how you can close the deal.
Yes to everything. And here's the thing, I don't actually call it cold. Whenever I'm working with somebody, in fact, I'm working with a beloved person who inside of her business, and we're helping activate cold traffic. And we've had to use that phrase so we know what it is. I call them loose connections, because this is that other side of like, why do we not acknowledge what we've done in the past? It is hard for most people to reach out to someone brand new. And so when we have that block in place, then we don't do it. What I help my clients do is see how we actually have something in common with somebody that we think is a cold connection, and that gets you ignited, excited, and reaching out. So yes, I believe, and why my clients get so many great results, why I get great results, is I don't think you can do only referral only and have a thriving business. I don't think you can only do paid advertising and have a thriving business. You need to balance business development. I call it activating your network, or outreach, classically called, cold traffic, cold outreach, with your referral network, with how you're doing paid marketing. When you have a balanced process, you can't avoid having clients and cash and income and all the things you want.
Very true. What inspired you to start this business? And how did you even get into this specifically in helping women? Because that's not something you often find, I think, with women. Like, my husband is in sales. Okay. So he had to start with cold emailing and cold calling, dials. And he always talks about how few women were on the team, but the women who were on the team sometimes generated more sales than the men, because we're like, he said, like, people would feel bad for them and wouldn't hang up, or like would respond, and then eventually they would hook them, and then they would close all these deals. Right. So what inspired you to get, and how did you get here?
I'm like, how far back in my story do I want to go? Okay, so I'll go back about 20 some odd years, so like 1997. Okay, so one of my very first and only corporate jobs, I only had about 2 or 3. I worked for this company, and we sold really, really high ticket events to corporations like ExxonMobil, Staples, like big known name brands. And I remember learning all the sleazy sales techniques, and they just didn't feel good.
Well, hold on. What are these sleazy sales techniques?
Coercion, persuasion, harassment, those kind of sales techniques. The ones where like you walk on, like, there's a reason why it's called like, a slimy salesman when you go onto like the car lot and they
the used car salesman. Yeah, the used car salesman. Yes.
There's a reason for it, because it's a technique that's taught. And in fact, from a male vantage point, as a hunter aggressor, to pound, harass, force, and coerce, they're not doing it from like an evil perspective. It's just a technique that's been taught, and it's taught over and over and over and over and over again. So everyone thinks it's the way to learn. And I remember being taught these things because I got into corporate at like 19. So yes, 19 plus 25 years ago, whatever those numbers of math are. But when I got in, it just didn't feel good when I tried it. So I stopped doing it. And I remember I sat next to this really lovely woman, and we had a sales team that were like, I don't know, 5 or 6 guys, the guy in charge, and they're like, ring the bell, go make the sales. And I remember this girl who sat next to me, super sweet, amazing woman. She would come in early. We would all get like our list to call from the cold, and she would just pound it. Her philosophy, there was no such thing as a no. You just had to keep asking. And I am a really, really bad employee. I mean, really bad. Like, I can't believe I didn't get fired, but I know why I didn't, because I would show up late, like really late. I would just make it to like a little sales team meeting. I would fake my way through anything and then go get a snack. I would get my list of people. And what I didn't realize I was doing at the time, but I now know and teach this, is I did an energetic scan to see like just what name popped out to me. What name felt exciting to me, who I felt called to connect with. And I would make one phone call, and I would talk with that person. I would have conversations. I'd find out about their kids. I would get curious about what they wanted. I would usually make them an offer. I would make a big sale. I would get off that call. Oh, and I spent tons of time on the call with them. Like, as you can tell, I'm a talker. I would talk and connect and have all the fun. And then I'd go for a really long lunch. And I'd come back in the afternoon, and I would sometimes do one more. And then I would go home, and I would be done for my day. And this beautiful girl beside me was just pounding the virtual pavement and the physical pavement until she got her sales. And usually at the end of each cycle, we'd have the like, who did the most and all the things. And my sales numbers were almost equivalent to hers, but I was doing like an 18th of the amount of work, because I was energetically connecting to the people I was meant to work with. And I was listening, and I was nurturing one person. I don't believe sales are about the numbers. I believe that when someone knows you, likes you, trusts you, when you love them, when you believe in them, when you can see what is possible, that is when they will buy. So I gave more energy and attention to the one human, and they became the best buyers. And it made it easier and easier as I went through my career because I would have repeat customers because they had such a great experience. So she had to do all this extra work. The guys had to pound the pavement and harass people. And what I learned is when you create deep connection, you help people understand their struggles and really access the vision of what they can create. When you then insert your services as the answer that's going to solve their struggles and get them to their vision, they can't wait to pay you, and they thrive and you thrive. That's my philosophy. I hope I answered that question.
No, I mean, it's so interesting. It brought me back to my first job out of college. I was there for 5 years, and 3 years in, we hired this salesperson. He was last job before retirement. He'd been in the business for a long time, and he only made like 3 calls a day. And I finally got the nerve. He sat like in the cube next to me. Finally got the nerve, and I asked him, I said, why are you only making 3 calls a day? And that young kid over there that you manage, he's making like 20, 30. And he said, I spend all that time researching them. I don't only not just the weather that they're having in that specific area. What's the weather coming up? What have they dealt with in terms of weather? What are they like the companies? Like I invest so much time in that company. And then I have to spend that time thinking about how am I going to twist this so that they think that I'm the right solution or that I am the right solution for them. And that just like blew my mind, right? Because at this point, my husband is doing the cold calling and like I'm coming home hearing him say, oh, all they care about is dials. But I just booked 3 deals through LinkedIn. Why do they just care about the dials? I spent all this time researching them on LinkedIn. Like just hearing this in my head. So what you're saying just like basically aligns with that. So why are they still pushing cold calling? Why are people still pushing cold emails?
Yeah. So I think this goes back to the classic thing of you don't know what you don't know and what's not taught. So sales is not taught in school. Like no. Maybe if you go to like a really specialized MBA program, and I don't even think it happens there. So what happens is there's no information around sales, or you're learning from the person who learned from the person who learned from the person who learned from the person. And people just repeat. It's insanity. They repeat what they've learned because somewhere someone got a result. I think this also goes back to like why the work that I do becomes so customized with my clients is because what works for me is not going to work for you. What works for him is not going to work for her. What works for Jim and Tim and Tina and Sarah, all the people, we all have our unique code of what works and what doesn't work. Now, are there groupings and categories of people who can do certain things? Yes. But historically, the way that sales go is no one is taught. And the only way you're taught is by the person who says, I did this, you should do that. I think there's also this classic thing that's built inside sales that drives me insane, which is the go do the grunt work and harass people and harangue and volume will get you sales. And I will say this, yes, it is true. If you simply call 500,000 people, yes, you will get 10 people that say yes to buy from you. So technically it's true. It's just so much wasted effort and wasted energy. But because it works, people keep doing it. And no one is out there teaching something different, which is why I exist, because I know I'm meant to teach everyone the different way to do it.
Have you ever thought about going into corporations and teaching your method? What made you decide
it? Okay. Yeah, I'm like, I want to say the answer. So there's 2 things. One is I do still work with some companies and I come in and help them do sales. I love helping sales teams thrive. The one component that I need though is freedom in the offer and the structure. Because what I find is when a company is very rigid in how they do things, like I was hired to come into actually a marketing company, and they do a very specific process and system. And they hired me and they invested well and they had a wonderful team and I did a lot of great work. And when it came down to it, the corporate structure basically said, we want to keep doing the same thing, but we just want you to make it work better. And what I come in is I say, you have to do things differently to get a different result. So I find that if a corporation is a small enough business and is open enough to really nurture their people to do things differently, I'm all in.
That makes sense. I'm thinking about my husband's past companies and I can't see that flying. They would totally be like, no, this is the box though. Please work within this box. Right.
Literally.
Right.
Which is why I love entrepreneurs. And I also love women. I feel like they're way more open because they've had the experience that says this didn't feel good and they want to believe there's a different way to do things.
Let's talk a little bit about your business and get into how you built this 7-figure business. Do you remember when you hit your first 500K and then 1 million?
I'm trying to remember the year, but it was the year that I did my first live event that I went over 500,000. And what I had been doing historically is one of my sweet spots is teaching people how to create like a 2 or 3 day event and then teach and create an arc of a sale and make a live offer from the stage and have all the people buy. And I remember the very first time I did that, we did 336,000 just from the event. And that experience popped me over my 500,000. And then the $1 million mark, I think it was like 2 years later, because it was the ability to sell one to many. And I think that's the biggest transformation is, and I like to say is you have to have enough offers available or services available to actually fill that up and to service people. And what I find where people get stuck in it is they've created a non-infinitely scalable business. So even if you wanted to sell that much, you don't have enough service to be able to provide to make that much money. And that was my big changeover. It wasn't just work harder. It was I changed my offers along with how I was serving my clients so that I could serve more people to make more money.
Can you give us an example?
Yep. So for years, I did one-to-one work. And I think you can probably get in most consulting and coaching services, you can get to 300,000 to 500,000 with one-on-one. Like I can do that pretty easily. You can probably even get up into the 600,000. What I did differently though, was I restructured. So I had 2 levels of a mastermind. So I was serving one-to-one. I moved from one-on-one to one-to-many. And then I also inserted a course so that I had ways for people to come in, learn from me. But most people start with the course and then they build up. I actually just did it opposite. I did one-to-one, a very high ticket mastermind, and then a lower ticket group program style mastermind, and then a course. And when I changed my suite of offers, it let me actually serve more people. Usually within about the same amount of time, I could serve like 10 or 12 one-to-one clients. I could take 30 people inside of a program.
Yeah, I was going to say most people I talk to have the course, and then from the course, they go to a mastermind or group coaching or something like that. Okay. But this is not your first business you brought to 7 figures, right? You had a real estate business beforehand.
I did. Yeah,
did we did. Oh, sorry.
No.
I was going to ask, did you use any of the same tactics for both?
I did. Well, it's funny. So when I was doing this stuff with real estate, part of why I got into it was I realized it was an old boys club. And in fact, I'm one of those people, whenever I build something, I go find a mentor. I want to know what I don't know and get to the right space. And what I learned when we came into real estate was using the techniques that I like to run by, like having a lot of heart and authenticity and integrity and connection. We would go in and buy properties at higher price points than most other investors because I wanted to do right by the people who were selling us their houses. I didn't want to just run by profit alone. I wanted to take care of my team. And I remember when we used to do, we actually used to send out letters to cold letters to get people to come in. And there were a couple of ways that I did it. One, we did go through probate. So if you know anything about real estate, when someone passes away, if there's not an heir to purchase or to receive the house, it goes into probate court. And it's kind of like a slimy thing that a lot of investors would do is they're basically harassing families of people who have passed. And so what we did instead was we realized after having an experience or two of buying houses from probate, the stress, the strain, the lack of knowledge that most people had. So instead of going and asking to buy their houses, we came in through the entry point of, you may not know what to do. Could we help guide you to pick the right thing? And usually they would pick us to be the buyers, but we made it into like an advocacy moment. So I switched that. And then the other thing and the most effective thing, there were 2 things I would do with real estate that I think really were game changers. One, I started teaching other investors how and what to do. And so they would bring me deals all the time. So I created my own ecosystem and referral network where I could help teach, train, and guide other women to do this. And they would show up with deals and not know what to do with them. And I would help them and also receive money. The other thing was, and I can't remember what it's called, there's a name for it. It's a technique, but you take like a piece of, like the yellow legal pads, and you handwrite a letter with red ink and you mail it to people for them to respond. That I took seriously. Most people would just have like a template. I would actually write people letters. I would explain to them who I was, why I was reaching out, why I thought their house was important, or if they ever wanted to sell, why to call me. And I would really put my energy into it. A lot of what we did was customized versus just cut and paste. Again, going back to the same technique, give more to one person versus try to find 100 people you give the littlest amount to.
Think about like nowadays with all like I still get, like little letters in the mail. That's just like a postcard that has been printed a million times.
Correct.
So what do you think is the most important action item you took to grow this specific business to 1 million?
This is such a good question. I'm going to say the word willingness to do what must be done to get what I desire, with the lens of not having to force and push. Because I think people go into, like, I'm going to use the word hustle. Again, I think that matches with sales. Like, why does cold calling work? Because it's hustle. And you can hustle your way up to a certain amount. What I did differently was like really taking care of myself, really looking at like who I had around me for my support network, my own coaches, being strategic but willing to edit, adapt, and adjust. I think that's another really big one. I've always hired mentors whenever I feel like I'm stuck or I don't know what to do. I don't try to go it alone or go blind. And I think there really is that balance and understanding. This is why my clients get so many great results is I like to come up with a strategic pathway and plan to get somewhere. And I usually come up with like 4, 5, 6, 7 different ways to get there, so that when I'm on the pathway, if something needs to edit and adapt, I'm not on the fly editing and adapting. I am feeling that something feels off and I'm like, that's okay that didn't work. I've got the next one coming along. Or I really don't feel like doing this, but I feel really excited about that. So I let myself see the pathway and plan, and I give myself freedom to follow and adjust it.
Do you think that your mindset has shifted at all from when you first began building this business to reaching the hurdles of 500, 1 million, and then now as you grow?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think it's everything. Because I think when you believe completely in yourself or have confidence in what you're doing, let me explain it like this. So I always say that in life and in business, there's the bumps. And the bumps are going to show up no matter what. Like you go in, like you have the most brilliant idea, you put it out in the world, no one responds to it. The bump happens. You talk with, like, I had a sales call a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, this person's solid, they're going to buy. I had like already spent the money like in my mind. And I don't know why I just thought that. It was like looking at who they were and everything. And they were a no. And that's actually pretty rare, but it was surprising to me. The bumps happen. But I think the biggest difference in my life now than in the beginning is when my bump hits, it's a bump and I keep going, versus for most newer entrepreneurs, when the bump hits, it's like a dip and you go all the way down. And why I don't have that is because of my support network, my coaches, my husband. He's like home and making food and taking care of our house and taking care of our kid and supports me and be like, stand up and get everything done that you need to get done. I have that circle of support. So when my bump happens, I reach out to the right person to help me stay in that energy. I also allow myself to feel the bump because bumps happen, but I don't go down the rabbit hole of like, no one showed up for my webinar, everything's terrible, nothing's working, I can't get out of bed. It's, oh, that happened, now let's figure out what's next.
Yeah, I had something similar 2 weeks ago where I had a bump. But difference being, I do allow myself to get down for like a day or two, but that's it. I tell myself, after a day or two, you pick yourself up, you can try again. Right. And I think maybe that comes from, being in business a while. And you just realize that this happens and that there are, maybe I just need to change my copy. Maybe I need to change my sales tactic, whatever it is. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit when you spend money. And when you make money, right? Because you just talked about, I already spent that money in my head. What do you think is your best investment so far and your worst investments? And how do you find that balance between spending money and making money?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give this to you as like an overall versus a specific one. My best investments are when I invest in growth. My worst investments are when I buy out of fear. And I will give you a specific example. I remember feeling some burnout a couple of years ago. Whenever you're listening to this recording, pandemic was a couple of years ago. And I think right before that, a lot of people were actually feeling feelings of just becoming tired. Sometimes the process of building a business can become exhausting and getting it up into the air into certain heights. And I remember feeling that, and I was outside of myself looking around, and I saw this person who I really admire online, someone who I thought I really knew pretty well, and she had what I thought I wanted. And so I bought working with her, and it was a large investment, probably about 150,000 all in for 12 months of coaching and a couple done for you pieces. And I still will tell you, she's a lovely, lovely mentor, great person. The purchase fall down was on my side because I bought outside of myself. I thought, she's got the answer. You don't have the answer. Go do what she's doing and it will work for you. And I invested a lot of money, time, energy. And what we created, that sales page will never see the light of day. The video that was produced to fill it was maybe the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't me. It wasn't matched. I'm going to use a quotation marks, did not work. But I know what it was is because I was looking outside of myself to ask somebody to save or solve for me. And those purchases never work. The best purchases that work for me are the ones that I am choosing for growth versus buying out of fear.
Do you have that happen with your business? Have clients come to you and bought out of fear? I know you mentioned earlier that you have like a customized thing for each person, which I love hearing. But has anyone come to you and bought out of fear and then it hasn't worked out?
Yes, I'm certain that has happened. And there's a process I do inside of my sales conversation where I am looking for the line between determined and desperate. Because what I love is when people arrive on my doorstep and they're like, I need help because I want to help people and I'm going to go create this. I say a lot of words like, I can't guarantee results. I can't. Unless I could literally come and possess you, become you, and do all the work for you. And even then, I don't know that I can guarantee it. But what I can guarantee is that I will listen to you. I will support you. I will give you my best and brightest. I will help guide you. So I do a few, I'm going to call them sale takeaways. If I feel like the person is more desperate than they are determined, because a lot of times it can show up similarly. I'm going to give you an example. I have someone that I've worked with who, when she came to me, how do I want to explain this? She wanted to buy my biggest package, but she was not ready for it. So could I have sold that to her? Like, would she have found the money? Yes. Could I have delivered? Yes. Was it going to give her the results she wanted? No. So I actually sold her a smaller package for us to get started so she could go get in motion and see some results before we went to the second side. So I think that also turns into ethics in your sales. Like, I don't just take someone's money. I have to believe in what they're selling, because what I basically am doing inside my sales conversation, it's not just do you want to work with me? It's, do I want to work with you? Like, if I take on a client, I kind of need to want to like buy their services. Now, that doesn't mean like I don't need to buy everyone's services that I work with, but I need to believe in them so much that I'm an advocate for what they're doing. If that doesn't line up, I don't work with the person. If I don't feel like that they are, like, if you come to me for me to save you, I can't save you. And that puts too much strain on things. But that's also why I have different ways to work with clients. And there's one more piece that I like to do that prevents me from having savior buying, which is I will send somebody off to go do an assignment before they buy from me. And usually that assignment, it's customized, but 9 times out of 10, it's for them to go get a client or something to that effect. And what I've learned is it's not about the result that they get, it's do they go and do it? So if I've given someone something to go do, if they go do it, I know we're going to get results working together. If I give them something to do and they come back and it didn't work or they didn't do it, we don't work together.
Yes, I've definitely had moments of, oh, no, I gotta do this. I just want you to help me. I can't think of who it was specifically or what it was, but like I've definitely had those moments where I'm like, oh, you're making me do something before we started working together. But then actually it flips, and most of the time I just want to prove myself, and so then it ends up working out. But I do have that moment of like, have you ever had months in the red?
Yes.
How do you
Red,
deal
black,
with
blue,
that?
white.
And how, like, what advice do you have for women when they see that month in the red and the mindset they should have?
So a few things. One is I know it might happen, so I put myself in a position to not just like have savings, but an understanding of it. So it's not a common thing. I also know this, usually when that shows up, it's when people get into feast and famine cycles or launching cycles. There's a lot of pressure that goes on launching. And so I actually teach unlaunching, if that's a word. A lot of my clients still use the technique of launches because they work great, especially in online, but they do create feast and famine possibilities. So what I usually do is I have a little underground offer that's happening all the time, even if somebody's launching, and that's what keeps me out of having red moments. The other part is I really pay attention. I have something, it's a sales circle that I have everyone fill in where I'll give you a great example. Most of my clients show up at some point and they're like, I want 10 more clients. And they're like, great, let's go get 10 clients this month. And what happens is if you get 10 clients this month, all 10 clients end at the same time, and then you're in that same spot. So if somebody came to me and wanted 10 clients, I would show them how to get 3 or 4 this month, 3 or 4 next month, 3 or 4 the next month. That way, not everybody's ending at the same cycle. And that's what I use to keep me out of the red.
Okay. Do you have a team right now that works with you?
I do. And it's fun because I've had various number sizes of teams. Right now, I think I have the leanest team I've ever had, and it's pretty nice. We have like a full-time assistant who does like the tech and the customer service. We've got I hire contractors a lot right now. I've shied away and stayed away on purpose from employees for a while. I also run teams. When I did my real estate business, we had, oh goodness, like 10 members inside the core of our team. We ran 2 construction crews. There were lots and lots of people. And I've helped clients who have large teams, like 25 or 30 people. But for me personally, I've learned a lean team that is ongoing and consistent. And then I hire experts for projects as I need. That balance has been really great for me.
I'm writing down that note. I'm writing down lots of notes.
It's a good one. Well, you know what it does
like
is I've learned a lot of clients that I've worked with, because I come in, revenue solves a lot of ails, but revenue is not the only thing. If you have such a high like team cost, like one of my beloved clients, we got her to average probably between about 70 to 120 a month. Like 70 would be the lowest, but an average like 80 to 100. And she was starting to become drained and frustrated because she was paying herself like 3 to 5K a month, but her team costs were like 25 to 30. And it was just feeling out of balance. So we had to show like, where does your money go? Are you feeling like you are beholden to people? I remember one of my other clients reached out to me this week, and she's like, it's really interesting. Year over year, this year that we've been working together, she actually has technically made less money. I'm using quotation marks if you can't see them. However, her profit is like, I don't know, 50 times more. I mean, like, it's ridiculous how much difference it is, because she had such an unwieldy team experience and so much cost that she was basically running her business to pay her team. And so we came in and we slenderized some of her offers. We reorganized how she was doing things with her team. She had so many people doing very similar tasks. And what we learned is 2 people working nearly full time was much better than 6 people each taking care of a few little pieces. And that was what was right for her. But when we redid that, she's having a lot more enjoyment in her business as well. So my philosophy with team is different businesses need different sizes of team, but a lot of times you go into it and you put together what you think you need as opposed to what you actually need.
What management or leadership advice do you have for women who are trying to grow their business and have a team, or already have a team usually?
Communication, 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 communication. I think that balanced with expectations will give you everything you need and understanding your team motivation. And I always like to give this example because it's a really great sales example as well as a motivation example. I had just a beloved woman sell for me a while ago, and she was doing this like magnificent job. And we had this conversation, and I was like, look, I want, 125,000 this month. It was like 4, maybe 5 sales. And I asked her, what do you actually really want? And we joke now because everyone has one now. She is motivated by gifts, and she wanted an espresso machine. So what I did before we even started the month, I bought an espresso machine and I sent it to her. Now here's what's fun about that. I spent $250, like I got a really nice one and shipped it to her. She sold 125,000 for me. What I would have done if I was a sales manager and I was only looking at what I thought people were motivated by, I would have just said, great, you can have a 5K bonus if you make all the sales, or instead of getting 10%, would you like 20% this month? And I would have given out so much more profit that wouldn't have actually been the needle mover for her. She wanted a gift. And I also look at that with all the other team members. We have a client right now who she's been struggling with team because she has everyone on dollars per hours. Everyone is paid for a certain amount of dollars per hours they work. And 2 things happened. One, like she could figure out what was happening with her cash flow. When you sell fixed cost services and have a variable cost team, it is a roadmap for disaster because you can't control what it costs to deliver your services because they're set, but the team can go up and down. So every month was a different month for her. The other thing about human motivation, her team wasn't trying to go over their hours, but they literally are rewarded to go over their hours. So we changed it to flat fee. They now have projects that they need to get done. There's a flat amount and we accomplish the goal together. It soothed her nervous system. She knows exactly how much is going to go out every month, and we can manage and maintain our profit. We can sell more services. And because our services are fixed cost, everything now matches.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about selling your business or having any kind of exit plans? Where do you plan to go?
I love this question. So I actually have a client who does exit planning. And it was really fun because I was helping her building her business to help other people exit. And it was just it was one of those like mind messing ones. It's funny. I always thought when I built this coaching business that I have, it was, the name Epic at Sales. And I purposely built it so it wasn't Laura Wright branded so that it could be sold. And then I decided that didn't actually fit for me because I love being connected. And so I've rebranded a bit to be more Laura Wright. So short answer is, I don't think this is the business that I would sell, but I love licensing my services. I love having the ability to have those kind of assets that you can hand over. And I am very curious about how I will leverage what I bring into my business to invest in other businesses that can be bought or sold. So I'm actually more looking at how can I buy other people's businesses or how can I invest in other businesses, not how I can sell my own.
What advice do you have for other women as they grow their business and want to hit the $1 million tipping point?
Number one, decide why you actually want that number. I remember I was working with a client recently who showed up and we got into the classic conversation where I always ask, how much money do you want to make? It's like, if we know what you want to make, we'll go get it. And they said $1 million. And I just asked the question, why? And they went, well, because everybody wants $1 million, because that's what the number, it wasn't a real granular number. So we sat down and I asked questions about, what do you actually want? Why do you want it? Tell me all the experiences you want. Who do you want to pay? All the things. And we tallied all of that up. And wouldn't you know it, the number wasn't $1 million. It was 2.24 million to create the life that they desired and what they really wanted to do. And had this like awareness moment, said, oh my goodness, if I had gone for the $1 million mark, I would have felt unsatisfied because it actually wouldn't have given me what I wanted. And not only that, it's the number that's off. Now that's true no matter what your number tally is, but this is what I would say about hitting the $1 million mark. Don't go for $1 million. Go for the number that gives you what you desire. When you are emotionally connected to the money, when you have a place for it to live, when you have a reason why you're going for it, it makes it so much easier when the bump happens, when times get more difficult. Because if you're just chasing the number, it's going to get tiring after a while. And I can't tell you how many times I've had clients show up who are getting what they want at a different number than $1 million. And if they didn't go for that, they wouldn't have actually ever reached the $1 million mark. Most of them, the moment they go for the real number, whether it's 500,000, 600,000, 2 million, 1 million, 20 million, it doesn't matter what it is, but when it's a real connected to you number, you cross the $1 million mark. I can't tell you how many times, like when you were asking the question before we started the call of like, do you remember when you hit 100,000 or do you remember when you hit 500 or a million, any number? The short answer is no, because usually it happens when you're creating other things. We don't always see it when it's actually happening. But when you are connected to your ideal client, excited about your offers, when you're doing amazing, important things, the money then will also show up.
What hurdles have you specifically faced in growing and running your business as a woman? And this could be kind of juicy since you're in the sales field. Has anyone ever told you like, no, your method is horrible? Male or woman?
I very, very rarely hear no to anything. I have had some pushback every once in a while. Some people are definitely interested in struggle because I don't teach that. Here's what I always think about.
Well, wait, backtrack. Interested in struggle because you don't teach it. Wait, explain what that even means.
Okay. So some people think you have to work hard to make more money. Or I'm going to give you an example.
I would say most people think that, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of my clients is building a course, and she's hired this company to help market the course. And they have told her she has to run this Facebook group. She has to do 16 5-day challenges. She has to do this. She doesn't want to do it. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't feel aligned. She just doesn't want to do all of what I'm going to use, quote, hard work to get the same results. And so we're not going to do that because it's not going to work for her. Because even if you do it, if you don't want to do it, it's not going to work for you. Have you ever had that experience where like you say you want something?
Yes.
And then it feels
it's usually social media. Work. It's usually social media people like you need to put 5 reels out. You need to do that. Like when I was looking at hiring a social media crew for my business, and it was like, look at all these reels you need to do, and then like the Facebook ads, and then I was like, whoa, this is just like, I feel like there's got to be a way to bring in. And then so what I started doing was just focusing on LinkedIn, not Instagram. And LinkedIn is where my audience is and where people are more interested in what I have to promote. And then even just from posting, and then like I didn't have to do crazy videos, I didn't have to do it, and like slowly stuff just started to grow and I started getting engagement. And then it's like, I barely focus on Instagram anymore. I focus almost exclusively on LinkedIn. And it just felt like they were pushing down Facebook and Instagram. And I was like, that's not my love at all.
I'm going to tell you this, and everyone can take away whatever you want from this conversation. But if you don't like doing it, or if you don't enjoy it, it's not going to work.
Yep.
It's like, I mean, like with anything in life, but that specifically, there are some smart things you should do inside your business. But for the most part, if it doesn't feel good, if you don't love it, like why, this is the question I get all the time. Like, why did my program not fill up? Or why is this thing not selling? 9 times out of 10, as soon as I pull a thread, I'm like, well, you don't like this and you don't want to deliver it. That's why it didn't sell. Like if you're not in love with, like when I go to sell my offers, I have a moment, I'm like, I want to buy that. I want that. Oh my God, I love this. I can't wait to do it. Like one of my clients were, one of the things that she gets inside of her package is I'm coming to her team retreat. And she's like, Laura, do you think we could do one extra day where we just like went to the spa? She's like, I know you don't love massages, but would it be cool if we just like lounged by the pool all day and had some drinks? I'm like, let's do that. That sounds awesome. I'm like, I love that. I would want to go do that. And it's a different thing for different people. Like it could be if you sell branding that you think it's beautiful, but if you get ignited and excited by it, you can't help but sell it and they will want to buy it. So that goes for everything. If social media turns you off, I promise you there's a different way to do it. One of my clients, she sells a package that's about $250,000. And when she was trying to grow her business, everyone's like, Facebook ads, social media, do this, do that, the other. I'm like, oh, darling, none of the people who are buying your stuff are watching any of that or doing any of this. You need to go to this country club and you need to go to specifically this meetup where all these people are, and that's where all your people are. Stop doing all the other stuff. It doesn't work. It's not matched to your audience. I think that's the other big key about sales. Sales and marketing can either work together or they can fight each other. And when somebody is telling you specifically, Gary, to go be on Instagram and do reels and point and dance and all, none of your buyers are watching that shit. So they're not going to watch it from you.
Oh, I know.
And they're not going to buy from you.
Got like 1 like from my VA. Thanks. Like at least I got one person supporting it. Let's go back to the original question. What hurdles do you have specifically? What have you faced growing in your business as a woman?
Yeah, so I think a really interesting thing, number one, I haven't had as many as most people because I very quickly decided I worked with women and for women, and I stayed in that bubble. So like for a long time, I didn't actually realize there were still so many struggles for women in business because I was only working with other women in business. But I do remember there's been a few moments in my life of why I do this. And one was when I went to college, I have a degree in sculpture, a BFA, but I was going to an art school for fine arts. And I remember sitting down with the guy across the table from me, who was this old dude, like people that I knew who went there like 40 years before I had him. And I asked the question that I don't think a lot of people ask when they go to college, which is, how am I going to use my degree and make money? And I asked that. And he said to me, 2 things. One, you can either go to New York and become famous and you won't, or you can marry a rich man. And I remember like that stayed with me. And I actually got up and left his office and went to the sculpture department and got my degree. But it made me start to think about business and how to monetize and how I was actually going to take care of myself. And that began my lifelong quest to figure out business. What I think the biggest thing is being able to put yourself in a surrounding container of people who lift you up. And I've done such a good job of that. I haven't felt that much tear down as a woman in business.
That's so good to hear. But don't forget, you can marry rich if it all goes to shit.
It's funny that you say it because we actually retired my husband about 7 years ago. I always love that Cher quote of where she says, "Mom, I became the rich man."
Yes. Oh, that's great to hear. So share with us, where can we find you? If you have anything to offer for our listeners, please share that.
Absolutely. So go to LauraWrightOfficial.com. And when you get there, I want you to go ahead and claim my book. It is called, this is very funny. I said what it was called earlier before we got on the call.
You did.
And then it just
51.
left my brain. So it's No Woman Down, 51 Laws to Create Your Epic Income Rise. And what I want you to hear about this is what I like. It's just like me, short and sweet. I love little inspirational actions that you can take that are actually going to see progress. Because when you feel successful, you expand and create more success.
Thank you. What is one philosophy, mantra, or quote that you try to run your business by?
Everything always works out for the Wrights. So anytime I do anything, I'm going to get the outcome I want, even if it's not a direct from here to here. Every time I do something, I get what I want.
I would generally agree with that too. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if you are currently listening to this podcast and you made it all the way through, which I'm sure you did, please sign up for our Tipping Jar of Wisdom email community gigs. You'll find 5 questions there that we ask Laura, exclusive content that you will only hear if you are part of our email community. So thank you so much again, Laura. Really appreciate it.
So welcome.